Welcome back to another video on the channel. I've had a few ideas of things to do in between tournaments when I'm previewing and reviewing Grand Slam matches and tournaments daily. I've settled upon this idea and it's going to be a new feature on the channel going forward called Talking Tennis Trends. I'm going to pick 3 things each week that have happened in tennis and just have a chat about them on the channel, see what you guys think about them. So this is going to be episode 1 and I'm going to focus on Maria Sharapova's retirement. Can Djokovic go unbeaten this season, and the rise of Canadian tennis. So I'll kick things off with Novak Djokovic's quest to go unbeaten this year, which sounds incredible, but when you consider the last 18 months he's had and the form he's in, it's not quite as impossible and ridiculous as it first sounds. You know, he started off this year in Australia at the Laver Cup, and he won, I think it was six singles matches. He beat Kevin Anderson and Rafael Nadal on the way. I don't think he dropped a set that week, and that was a perfect preparation for him leading into the Australian Open. There was many people questioning whether that was a good idea for him to play them 6 single matches and 2 double matches. Was it too much leading into a Grand Slam? But he soon quashed them rumours when he cruised through the first week. You could argue his worst performance of the tournament was actually in the first round when he dropped a set, and you thought, oh, is this is Djokovic at his complete best, 100% best? But he went on in the tournament to prove that he was. He came through that Roger Federer match in epic style in the end after Roger blew him away in that first set. Djokovic came back and managed to dominate both tie breaks and actually nick the first set as well after Federer almost give it away. And the final was an absolute epic against Dominic Thiem. He had a rampant Dominic Thiem who knocked out Rafael Nadal on the way and just playing the tennis of his life. You could argue Thiem was favoured to win that match at points. He was 2-1 up, but Djokovic has got this fighter's attitude, and you can see he's really looking to home in and becoming the GOAT of tennis. He plays it down all the time that he wants to become the greatest, but I think you can sense that he is really striving for it, and it does motivate him each and every tournament. He is the best player in the world right now. He's world number 1. He's dominated in Melbourne for a long time. He's also favoured going into Wimbledon and the US Open, so he'll be looking to win his 18th, 19th, possibly even 20th Grand Slam this year on his quest to become the greatest ever. And he was asked by, I'm not sure who the presenter was, but after his win in Dubai last Sunday, beat Stefanos Tsitsipas in straight sets in the final, is Novak looking to go unbeaten? And he says, of course I am, like jokingly. And then he corrected himself and said, no, yeah, I am looking to go unbeaten, and as I said at the start, it sounds ridiculous when, it's an individual sport, and, a year he's going to play, 11 or 12 tournaments, but write him off at your peril, really. We saw him in 2011, I think it was, when he went 42, 43 matches unbeaten, until he got beat off Roger in that semi-final of the French, a match he could have so easily won as well. But he's won the Australian Open. He's now won in Dubai. He moves on to Indian Wells now in Miami before moving on to the clay to play at the Monte Carlo Masters, the Italian. Madrid, I think he'll play, and then obviously moving on to the French. If Djokovic is going to get beat this season, I think that's probably the time on the clay. Especially in the 3-set matches, he's going to be up against like Tsitsipas, Rafa's teams. And surprisingly not, I think that the shorter the match, probably the worse for Djokovic. The 3-set matches, he could get out hit against the likes of Dominic Thiem, Tsitsipas, and Nadal. Federer, they're fantastic players. If they're on the game and Djokovic has a slight off day, then he could quite easily lose their matches. He's not invincible. Over 5-set matches down the stretch, I do think it's very difficult to live with Djokovic's stamina, perseverance, his ability to work out players and change the momentum of matches. I think he's very difficult to beat over 5 sets. It's an almost impossible task to even win a game or a set against Djokovic, let alone win 3. So I think the shorter the match, probably the better for his opponent. Do I think Djokovic should go unbeaten? No. I think I could see him winning one of the events in Monte Carlo or Madrid or Italy. I could see him winning one of them events for sure. I could even see him winning the French Open. If it only takes Rafa to get upset or Rafa to meet Novak in the final, and you can never ride Djokovic, as I say, in a 5-set match. But I don't think he'll go unbeaten. It's a monumental task, especially when you've got the Olympics as well coming up this year and the US Open. Djokovic didn't fare brilliantly last year. Wimbledon, you have to make him big favourite. But I do think Djokovic in the year as well, number one. I do think he'll win Wimbledon and the US Open, but you have to make Rafa favourite on clay. I mean, it'd be ridiculous not to. And there's so many outstanding players now. You've got Dominic Thiem looking like he's going to have a massive 2020. Tsitsipas, Medvedev, Federer, Nadal are always threats. Stan's coming back to his best. Andy Murray's returning to the court soon. So he's got so many challenges, Djokovic. And although I do think he'd be the outstanding player 2020, I think the go unbeaten it would be one of the greatest sporting achievements ever. I think if he was to do it, I mean, we've never seen records like that before in the sport, but if there was one man going to defy all odds, it probably would be Novak Djokovic. So moving on to number 2, Maria Sharapova retiring. I was just 7-year-old when Sharapova won that Grand Slam title at Wimbledon in 2004, beating Serena in the final. Sharapova was 17 at the time, and it was almost a real changing of the guard. Obviously Serena and Venus were dominating tennis at that time, the Williams sisters, and they were awesome to watch. Two sisters coming on and just dominating event after event, but it was brilliant to see Sharapova, a 17-year-old young wily teenager, come on and beat Serena at her home. Really at that time, she was dominating all events, Serena, and Sharapova came along and shocked the world really, and transformed tennis to levels that we hadn't seen before, especially in the women's game. There's a real hunger for it. Everybody's watching. Similar to the Coco Gauff story, they come along, don't they, every 20-30 years. Just a young 15-year-old, Boris Becker done it. They just come along and win events that you don't expect. But I think that's what helps any sport. If you have a young teenager, complete underdog, come along and beat the champions, and it's it's an underdog story that everyone follows. The world were watching that day, seeing this 17-year-old Russian superstar, can she upset an all-time great, and that's what she did. And Sharapova, I don't think she got as much out of her career as she could have. You can argue she wasn't always fully focused on tennis, but that's understandable. She had a lot of sponsorship deals, a lot of eyes watching her around the world. I know she moved to America at an early age, and she did have an outstanding career. She always showed real fight and heart on the court, and real passion, and give her best at every tournament. And she played some outstanding tennis at times. She's a 5-time Grand Slam champion, won the French Open twice, and she's only the 10th woman ever to actually win all 4 Grand Slams, which is an outstanding feat. She had a lot of injuries. She struggled with her shoulder, didn't she, early in her career. But I think if you look back through the classics, from that 2004 to 2010, especially when there was Clijsters and Henin and the 2 Williams sisters, Sharapova, that was an awesome time for women's tennis, and I feel like it's getting back to the sort of level now. We're seeing epic battles between the likes of Muguruza, Halep, Andreescu coming through, Osaka, Serena Williams, still there. Clijsters is making a comeback, although I'm not sure she'll reach that sort of level again, but you just never know. But yeah, Sharapova, she had an outstanding career, and unfortunately with that drug ban that she got, it was 2016 or 17, and ended her career in a couple of injuries and not playing her best tennis. It was a shame to see. She should be remembered as one of the greats of the sport. As I say, that match with Serena in 2004 will go down as one of the greatest classic matches, and it did transform women's tennis. And women's tennis is as good as it's ever been for me. For me, in my opinion, now I think we're getting treated to outstanding matches, and they're as good as the men's, in my opinion. The quality is fantastic, and I enjoy watching women's tennis just as much as I would enjoy watching men's. And Sharapova has a part to play in that. As I say, she didn't end her career on the best of notes, did she, at all? But it's a shame for her. She's going to go out being tarnished with, unfortunately, that drug ban and the injuries. But if you look back at the early parts of her career, you've certainly got to give her a hell of a lot of credit for the career she had and the part she played in transforming the women's game. The third point I'm going to look at is the rise of Canadian tennis. I mean, if you just look at the male players, even you've got like Milos Raonic, Auger Aliassime, Denis Shapovalov. On the women's side, you've got this new whiz kid Fernandez coming through, Andreescu. There's loads of Canadian teenagers coming through, just almost blown the sport away, really. And there's also Vasek Pospisil on the men's side, a very solid player. And I thought I'd look into it a bit more, and I've been on the Team Canada website, and I think if nobody's checked out that Tennis Canada website, I think it is, I'll leave a description, the link to the website below in the description. You should check it out. It's a brilliant website, and something that I've never really seen in the sport before. I mean, starting from the bottom, you can go there as a young Canadian. It's almost like a school in itself. They do 50% tennis, 50% school, and the coach is talking about he wants to be, create Wimbledon Grand Slam champions, young Canadians to be champions, be the best tennis players, but he also wants to be develop them into great human beings and clever, articulate, polite people. So it's almost like a school in itself. I think they teach maths, English and science at the school, and they do 5 hours of training in the gym, on the courts. But the website is a brilliant thing, really. If you go on there, there's something for everybody. The kids can have a look at programs and ways to improve. They can also find out how to get involved. They can put the postcodes in if they live in Canada and find local clubs and local courts that they can play on, which I think is brilliant. It's a great initiative. It gets people playing. You can read about the sciences all behind tennis, and the diets and the training plans that they have. You can read all the recent match reports, see how they're all getting on, all the players. There's regular player interviews to get to know the players more, regular match highlights. It's just a real sort of team feel, and I think it's an outstanding setup that Team Canada have got going, and they're bearing the fruits now. I mean, you look at the rise that Shapovalov and Auger Aliassime have had over the past few years. Milos Raonic has reached Grand Slam finals. Vasek Pospisil's had some massive wins in his career. There's Fernandez, 17-year-old. She's playing outstanding tennis in 2020. I think she lost just one match. She defeated Sloane Stephens the other day. Reached the final in Monterrey, getting beat of Heather Watson. Andreescu obviously won the US Open last year. She's becoming, one of the best women's players. Unfortunately, out with an injury at the minute, but I think she is back soon. But yeah, just all props to Canadian tennis academies and coaches. I mean, they must be doing a fantastic job to bring this amount of players through. And lastly, on the website, another great feature is you can actually look at all the Canadian players, and they've got like a little interview with them, just to learn more about the players, and have a look at some kids coming through. And there's lists and lists and lists of like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. So I'm sure we're going to see more Canadians joining the sport and excelling on the court in the future. But yeah, I just sort of have a quick mention for that, because I haven't seen so many players from one single country come through the sport like they have in the past 5 or 10 years. And I just thought that website was outstanding. It's something for everybody, something for the kids, ways of getting involved, ways of people keeping up to date with the players, and it's just an outstanding initiative, really. And Team Canada are doing a very, very good job. So that's it for week 1 of Talking Tennis Trends. I will be back next week again with a similar type video, so I will see you then. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.